Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast for financial professionals, bringing you life insurance insights from advanced sales experts and life insurance specialists. Grow a stronger practice today.
Welcome to Life Matters at Penn Mutual Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Bell, Vice President of Advanced Sales with Penn Mutual, and I am so pleased that you chose to join us here today. Now, in just a moment, we're going to roll an interview that I did with Tom Harris, who is the president of Penn Mutual's Life and Annuity division. Now, we had Tom on for a couple of reasons, one of which is that he is just a wealth of knowledge in regards to Penn Mutual as a company and the life insurance industry as a whole. So we wanted to get his thoughts on both of those things here. But in addition, the second reason is that earlier this year, Tom announced that he was going to be retiring from Penn Mutual at the end of 2024. Now, he has some very robust plans for his post-retirement career or the next phase of his career, but he will be leaving the company at the end of 2024. So we wanted to have him on, kind of share his thoughts, kind of go on the record before he rode off into the sunset. So without further ado, why don't we get to that interview, and I'll be back on to wrap up the show after the interview is over. All right. Well, it is my esteemed privilege to introduce the president of Penn Mutual's Life and Annuity division, Tom Harris. Tom, thank you so much for being our guest on this episode of Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast. It is a true honor to have you here today.
Bill, it's a thrill to be first invited to participate. I have never done a podcast before. I am absolutely looking forward to this.
Well, there's no time like the present. And it's not like you waited until the last minute or something like that.
Close.
Close, exactly. All right. Well, let's get right into it. So I wanted to kind of first set up your journey in regards to how you got here. So obviously a lot of twists and turns in everybody's career, but how did you wind up at Penn Mutual in the position that you're currently in as the president of the Life and Annuity division?
Well, I think it's a very little known fact. When I was 5 years old, I wanted to be in the life insurance business.
Lies.
It's not absolutely true. But I went to Temple University here in Philadelphia. My degree was in actuarial science, and I started to take the actuarial exams during my senior year, and came to the realization that I really liked the business and the math behind it and understanding, but I didn't want to be an actuary. So I looked for jobs that weren't student actuary positions. Those required that you pass an exam every 6 months in order to stay employed. And so I kind of fell into a job with Prudential. It was a couple of months before I was about to get married, and I figured, I'd stay there until I found a real job, and ended up staying there for over 25 years. It became a real job. I was in many different functions. Most of them, though, were tied to either our career distribution or independent distribution. Last 8 years I was there, I was running a division called Prudential Select Brokerage. And it was, selling our life product through independent distribution, focused on brokers, general agencies at that point. And I guess my success there led Penn Mutual or their search firm to, reach out to me. And I took the interview, and I was like, because I was commuting 140 miles round trip between Doylestown and Newark, New Jersey. And I'd been doing it for about a decade. Kind of funny what you can get used to, but I got used to it. But this was Penn Mutual. They were about 11 miles away from my house. They were a mutual company. My first 17 years at Prudential had been as Pru was a mutual company, and the last 8 as a public. Both experiences are great, but I really found when I began to engage with Penn Mutual again, how important mutuality was to being in the life insurance business. When I started with Pru, we had 25,000 career agents in the United States. That was 1984, so it's a long time ago. When I left there in 2009, we had about 2,500. So we have more agents actually in our company in Japan than we had in the United States. So dramatic change in terms of the emphasis that was being placed on life insurance. Penn Mutual very clearly then, now, and in the future has life insurance as its core strategy, domestic life insurance as a part of its core strategy. And to be part of that was just very exciting. And at the time, Bob Chappell was our CEO. Eileen, I believe, was our chief marketing officer at the time. and Dave O'Malley, our current CEO, was running product. So it was just a really dynamic group of people. Loved the interview process. I think I interviewed 6 times. I think they really wanted to be sure. But I decided to join, came on in August of 2009, and it's been a very quick, exciting, and I think productive 15 plus years.
I want to ask you a little bit about the decision in regards to moving over to Penn Mutual. So obviously Prudential, a huge company, The Rock. I mean, it's a massive, Fortune 20 company, Fortune 10 company. I mean, they're gigantic. Penn Mutual, when you moved over here, very small company at the time, and still comparatively speaking to Prudential, small, but obviously a real powerhouse now in the domestic life insurance space. Did you have any trepidation in moving from such a large company at the time to a smaller company? And it was really the leadership at the time kind of your deciding factor on that helped make the decision for you?
Yeah, I don't think it was big company, small company that gave me trepidation. I was there for 25 plus years. I had been very successful. I had gotten, growing sets of responsibility. So it was comfortable, I guess, right? So I think more than anything else, it was the people that made me, kind of deal with my discomfort and make the leap. Because the vision that Eileen and Dave were laying out about where they wanted to go, not where they were, but where they wanted to go, I thought that was going to be such an exciting thing to be a part of. And, it's not all been butterflies and rainbows, but it's been a great trajectory. It's amazing to see that 10-year vision that Eileen and Dave were talking about when I joined. How much of that we absolutely not only did, but we did it much faster than we anticipated, which allowed us to do even more and accelerate our growth. And I think you've been here a little over a year. I think you've seen even in a year how much we've changed and grown. And where we're putting our markers for the future with multi-life and all that kind of stuff. It was the people, but I think it's people within a mutual company structure that allows you to do those things, and that's been a really proud part of my career, has been being a part of that.
Well, I can certainly appreciate that. I mean, when I was interviewing to come over to Penn Mutual, one of the first interviews that I had was with you, and you had shared that your journey was that you were with another company for a long period of time, which I was as well. And some of the trepidation in regards to kind of making a move, because you do get comfortable. But I think hearing from you in regards to why you made the decision you did and coming over to Penn Mutual really helped me to get comfortable with my decision. And it's been awesome, obviously. And you're right. I've seen a lot of change and a lot of growth in just the past year. And I can't even imagine what it's going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now. It's going to be super exciting to watch.
And it's funny, when I do interview people that are coming into the company or considering coming into the company, particularly if they're with a large firm, I always, talk to them about, well, coming here, you're not going to be able to dish things and delegate everything. This is it's like player coaches. You need to lead, but you also need to do, and you need to like that. You need to, like the fact that you can see your fingerprints on the decisions that are made and the things that get executed. And if you like that, there's no better place to be than Penn Mutual.
Absolutely. So thinking back in your time with Penn Mutual, I think every leader has a particular moment or something that they're most proud of when you're talking about your time with a particular company. For you, what was that at Penn Mutual?
Wow. There's been a lot of things I've been very happy with, but I think one, whether it's the best or not, I don't know, but I'll give you, I think it's a really good example. When I was with Prudential, again, we distributed through brokerage general agencies, and that was not Penn Mutual's way to go to market on the independent side. But this group called FFR, we were really not able to work with them at Prudential because I only had 10 wholesalers. So we really needed to go to intermediaries. We couldn't go to individual financial professionals' offices. And that's kind of how FFR was. They had individual producers that wanted to get together. They did study groups. That's great group. But I just didn't have a way at Prudential to execute for them the way they would expect us to serve them. So there was a bit of frustration. But when I came to Penn Mutual, it was like our independent distribution with our employees, our regional vice presidents, our regional marketing directors, having direct relationships with financial professionals is our model. So I went, and this was back in 2010, out to Orange County, California, sat down with the then leaders of FFR at the time, and I said, you know how I was always giving you the Heisman when I was a Pru? We couldn't work together because we just didn't have the structure. I'm now with a company that's built for you. And we started a relationship with them back in 2010. I think last year, I think the past 2 years, Penn Mutual's been their biggest distributor. I'm very proud of that. By the way, it's a team sport. I was not alone. I got a ton of support. The company obviously had the support, all the different things we needed to do to be successful with a group like that. And then we've, added others since. But I think as I look at the way our business is structured now, how important those strategic alliances are and FFR is to us, that's probably among the best highlights, if not the highlight.
Yeah. 2 years in a row, soon to be 3 years in a row.
I like your confidence.
Fingers crossed. All right. So one of the other things that came to fruition while you've been at Penn Mutual is ACE, the Accelerated Customer Experience. We had a couple of episodes ago. I think it was 3 or 4 episodes ago. We had a couple of financial professionals on talking about their experience with ACE and how it's made their lives just more efficient because it's just easier to do business with Penn Mutual. How did ACE come to fruition? How did it come about? What was the motivating factors that helped drive ACE as kind of a platform that Penn Mutual wanted to invest in? And what was your part in it?
Well, I'll start at the end. My part in it was more promotional than it was actually doing anything about making it. The real architect of ACE is Dave O'Malley. I mean, it was his brainchild. Obviously, Greg Driscoll and a bunch of the folks in IT and underwriting and all the new business, a lot of hands in. But it was Dave's vision. And I think it came about because we had a really antiquated experience, not just Penn Mutual, but the industry had a very antiquated buying experience. So the idea here was, can we modernize that experience? And at the same time, not disintermediate the financial professional's relationship with their client, right? We still wanted the FP to be who we had the relationship with. They bring us the clients. So that's the way ACE was architected. Basically the financial professional is still the gatekeeper. They could get instantaneous if they get the underwriting offer. They could go instantaneously to the client if they wanted to do that. And I think our quickest is 4 hours from beginning to end. Or if part of their sales process is, well, when I deliver the policy, that's when I get my referrals, whatever their process was, they can use ACE and it doesn't change their process. It just makes the experience better for both the client and for the FP. So when I say promotional, it launched in August of 2017. It was supposed to be a very narrow launch. Our Philadelphia agency was going to be the starting point. And it was definitely going to be very controlled and staged rollout. Well, within about 2 weeks, it became a jailbreak. Everybody wanted in. And, the rest is history. We kept on building, kept on growing. Started out with $2.5 million face amount that we'd write. Grew to 5, now 10. And all of our products except for survivorship. So it's industry leading, has remained, industry leading because we continue to take feedback constantly from the users, and they've just made it better and better. I don't know how many times we've updated it, but it's probably at least a couple of hundred times that we've updated ACE since it was implemented back in 2017. I'll give you a fun fact, though, Bill. We were a 100% paper-based company, 100%, through November of 2015. So to see that, literally, we had underwriting files that had different colors. If you were in the IFN, if you were MDRT, if you were STAR, and if a requirement came in electronically, we would print it and put it into one of the manila folders. So that's where we were November 2015. Fast forward where we are today with ACE and Insight and Gateway and all the podcasts that we're doing. I mean, it's just incredible to see how we've made the experience better, and that's really been the focus. I think that was the focus of ACE, and the other things we've done and continue to do is how do we make the experience better for both the FP and their client.
So that's actually a good segue to my next question here. So you mentioned earlier that when you were working for your previous carrier, you were commuting 140 miles round trip from Doylestown to Newark. Then you were commuting 11 miles from Doylestown to Horsham. A few years back, we had this little pandemic thing, and Horsham office is all of a sudden closed, and now it no longer exists. I mean, the building is still there, but there's nobody going in there. As a leader of a large division like the position that you're in, did you have any trepidation on having a fully remote workforce? And I get asked this all the time because there's a lot of FPs that are out there. They're still going into an office every single day, or they have a small staff, but they can never kind of see working fully remote. And they just think it's amazing doing what we do with people all over the country. Have you had any concerns? Was it something that you kind of went into willingly to have a fully remote workforce? Or is it something that, hey, let's do it, this is going to be exciting, and no looking back?
I was definitely in the camp of wanting to get back. My whole career had been that way, right? I'd always been,
right.
And it's always neat to walk over to, Ray Couchie's door or Gretchen DiNucci or Jen Dorf, talk about cases. And so that had been the way I always worked. So I was hoping we would get back. And we actually did kind of open back up, but it was 100% voluntary. So you didn't have to go back in if you want. But I thought people were just going to come unglued, get back into the office was going to be great. So I went in that first week, we were allowed to go back in. And I think, I had 8 meetings that day. All were on Zoom. There were no people at those meetings. I actually went on a scavenger hunt in the building to try to find somebody else in the building. Initially, I wanted to get back, but it obviously wasn't what most people in the company wanted. And we had changed dramatically during the pandemic in terms of sourcing new talent. We had to, right? I mean, it was just, so we had brought on so many people. I think at the time, we had people, 30% of the people weren't within any driving distance of any of our locations, field offices, home office. And that number's grown since. But I kind of grown to really like our model. And the reason I like it is because we can get talent like you. We can get, the head of HDK I hired during the pandemic. And if we said, no, you have to come to Philadelphia to get this job, we wouldn't have gotten that, Aaron Gordon. We wouldn't have gotten you. We wouldn't have gotten members of your team. So I think we now have employees in 46 states. And I think it's more important for us if we want to keep the experience good, we want to keep, the best talent we can have, because we're not a huge company. So every position really matters. Then I think this model is the best model for us going forward, because we'll always be able to get the best talent, whether it's an advanced sales position, an actuary, an underwriter, people in service. That I think, I've come to accept that is the best model. But that early days, you were asking, did I want to come back? Yeah, I wanted to come back. And fortunately for me, I had the opportunity, because of the job I get to visit distribution partners. They have meetings. I get to see some of the Penn Mutual colleagues at those meetings, but I'm with hundreds of financial professionals in person. And so that really kind of filled the bucket in terms of the interaction for me. And again, just getting the best talent, I think, is the best thing for the company, which this model allows us to do.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, when I told my wife, hey, I've been approached by this company about coming over and running their advanced sales area. And she said, well, where are they? And I said, well, they're in the Philadelphia area. And she's like, well, I'm not moving to Philadelphia. I mean, she's never been to Philadelphia. It's a wonderful city. It really is. But my wife is from the south of France, and she is what we would call a warm weather type.
Nobody has mistaken Philadelphia for the south of France in my recollection. So
yeah, at least not from a climate perspective, for sure.
Right.
So we continue to live here in Southern California. It's been an awesome experience and been great that we have this chance to join Penn Mutual, because if I had to move to Philadelphia, you're absolutely right. That just would not have been in the cards. So I'm glad the decision was made. All right, I've got some industry related questions for you, because obviously not only are you an expert on all things Penn Mutual, but you are an expert on the life insurance industry in general. And I didn't prompt you on this, so you might not have the numbers directly in front of you. But I've seen you share this statistic at a few different meetings, and I've always found it fascinating. The number of life insurance companies today compared to 2 years ago, can you kind of share with the listeners what the difference in the industry is as far as actual carriers that are out there? And why do you think the numbers have kind of worked out the way that they have? When you share the numbers, you'll see how stark of contrast it is in regards to companies that were in the business 20 years ago versus now.
Well, yeah. So I am a bit of I like fun facts. So I do have this just because I've shared it so frequently. ACLI publishes a fact book every year. And so it has the number of life insurance companies in the industry dating back to the early 80s. So 1988 was the high water mark for life insurance companies doing business in the United States. There were 2,343 companies that were doing business in 1988. Fast forward to 2022, which is the last year they have data for, 727. So a huge decline. Almost all of that decline is in stock companies. Stock companies have declined 76% since 1988 to 2022. Mutual companies, there were 118 mutual companies back in 1988. There are 110 in 2022. So a 7% decline. So all of the, kind of consolidation or exiting of the business has largely been in stock companies. And I think so that's a big secular decline. It doesn't look like it'll reverse. There aren't a lot of new players that come into our business that want to actually write life insurance and have that liability on the books. But the decline in mutuals far less. And I think that goes back to what you and I were talking about earlier. If you want to be in a life business, a mutual company is I think the best structure for it. And I think that's why they've had the staying power. But I think it's, a function of, it's hard to make a lot of money on life insurance. The returns, and mutual company, if we get excess returns, we want to give that to our policyholders. That's the model. And I think in terms of capital allocation in a stock company, it's just hard for the life insurance business to win as much capital in the allocation process as other forms of business that generate higher returns. So, there's probably some other complexities involved, but I think those are the key driving factors. And when you think of it, back in 1990, the jumbo limit in the industry was 65 million. What's that jumbo limit today?
65
million.
Yeah.
And there are things you can do with the, super reinsurance and stuff like that. But basically the jumbo limit across the industry hasn't changed in 35 years. Effectively, that 65 million in capacity back in 1990 would be about $27 million today, right? That's the equivalent. So the erosion of capacity. And that's why I think it's important that, you're with a mutual, not only as an employee, but, financial professionals and the companies they're recommending to their clients, because the mutual companies have the staying power, but also capacity is not going to grow, right? I mean, capacity has shrunk. And I think how you use that capacity, how you select your distribution partners to consume that value of capacity is really important. And I think we've done a really good job there in terms of clearly defining who we want to do business with, the financial professional and the groups that we do business with. And I think that discipline has allowed us to have the kind of growth and success that we've enjoyed, during my time here for sure.
So you mentioned that there's not a lot of new companies entering our space. Some of the ones that have of late have really been focused on the direct to consumer model. And companies for as long as I've been in the industry, and my guess is for as long as you've been in the industry as well, have thought that there was some kind of Da Vinci Code that could be solved in regards to selling life insurance direct to consumers. Why do you think that's so challenging? And do you foresee a day where somebody's actually able to crack that code? I know our customer is the financial professional, because I don't think that anybody at our company, including myself, and I know you, think that that day will come, but I'd obviously like to hear it directly from you.
Yeah, I think back when I was with Pru, we began to work with the groups called the direct response general agencies. Basically, they were companies like SelectQuote, where they didn't have an in-person agent. They had an agent. The person was licensed, appointed, but they were sitting in a call center, either in San Francisco or Jacksonville, and they would take inbound requests for life insurance. And there was a place for that, and there still is. But that's been around for a long time, and I think the growth of that has really hit a ceiling, because I really believe when it comes to life insurance, most people don't understand it. They have misperceptions about it, and they want a Sherpa to kind of help them understand it. And so that's why they go to a financial professional. They might go online to look for a quote or try to get themselves educated. But if they're really going to execute, they want that person that they trust across the table to help them in making that decision. And usually it's not only about life insurance, right? They're talking about what are other forms of protection. Do you have, the kind of disability insurance you should have? Do you have, discussing, should you have higher deductibles on your auto insurance? If you can afford that, maybe you can afford, that money could be used for life insurance, so you get more protection. But I think that's really where you have to have a conversation with somebody who's knowledgeable about the business, and is more knowledgeable about financial planning in general. That really is why you haven't seen the kind of the growth, and kind of those direct to consumer companies pushing away or pushing out of the way financial professionals. Financial professionals still rule. I actually think the pandemic, one good thing that came out of it, it was terrible. One good thing that came out of it is people realized they didn't have to be geographically hemmed in. They could do business anywhere, with ACE and Zoom meetings and things like that. So I think it has permanently extended or expanded the way financial professionals can market themselves, who they can do business with. And even if it's not in person, they can still have face-to-face via Zoom. And people still want, I think, that guidance, that expertise that a financial professional can give them, so they feel confident they're making the right decision for their business, their family.
All right, terrific. Last industry-related question for you. All right, I want you to get out your crystal ball, and I want you to peer into it. Look 5-10 years in the future. Where do you see the most innovation in our industry coming? Is it going to be from service? Is it going to be product? Where do you really see potential growth as far as new offerings or new technologies, whatever it might be, within the life insurance industry?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's going to be in experience. So service. Penn Mutual has a big investment we're making in service now, not only this year, but it's a multi-year process. And that's because we've scaled the business. We want to make sure we can deliver the experience that clients expect from us, financial professionals expect from us. So I think that you'll see, certainly from Penn Mutual, a continued emphasis on making the experience better. There's been a lot of talk about, artificial intelligence and underwriting, things like that. I actually think that's going to have a bigger impact on service, on being able to take old policies and provide at a customer service person's fingertips information that was on a policy that was sold before they were born. I think using that kind of technology to aid and support real people that are having the conversation with clients is where you're going to see the greatest impact there. I think we'll change incrementally. I don't think it's going to be dramatic, but I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to be able to use that technology to enhance the ability of all of our employees to serve our clients.
All right. So I set this up before you jumped on, but one of the reasons why we're having you on this particular episode is by the time that this episode airs in early to mid December, you will be roughly about 20 days away from retirement. So why now? Why did you decide that this was a good time for you to retire? And what do you plan to do with your time after you leave Penn Mutual?
Well, first part of that, why now? I'll be 64 in February, this coming February. And so I always thought, 40 plus years, I'm about 65. I've always thought of that as about the time I should pass the baton on to younger, smarter people. And I know we've done that at Penn Mutual in terms of who I've handed responsibility over to. They're just phenomenal and continue to do a great job. So I'm proud of that, and I'm just ready. I have 2 grandkids now. I have a dog. I went to Royal Blue a couple of years ago, came in Puerto Rico, and came back with a dog. So I want to spend more time with my family. I want to spend more time with friends, and I've been on a schedule for 40 plus years, and it'll be nice not to have things so regimented. I do want to keep my hands in a couple of things in the industry. So there's a couple of things I'm doing with the American College. I'm going to stay on with the Center for Veterans Affairs, which Penn Mutual was the founder of back in 2012. I've been asked by a small firm of producers locally to be on their advisory board, and that'll start probably before the end of this year. So I'll keep my hand in, and I might end up teaching. I don't know if it'll be at Temple University. You can imagine me with a bunch of 18-year-old kids and Insurance and Risk 101. I think they would be delighted to have me as a professor. But that might be part of it too. The only thing I know for sure is I'm not going to have another full-time job. This has been great. I don't think I can top it. So it'll be spending time, family, friends, and a couple of things that keep me connected. And frankly, allow me to use my experience in ways that I hopefully can continue to help people.
So, I could absolutely see you as a teacher for a bunch of 18-year-olds teaching about life insurance and actuarial risk. B, what's the name of the dog? I know he's kind of the official dog of Penn Mutual, but maybe share a little more about that.
So the dog's name is Mark Anthony, and it's Mark with a C. And so we were down in Puerto Rico for our conference, our Royal Blue conference, and we always donate to a local charity. This time we donated to Paradise Rescue. We had, I think, 125 kids under the age of 18 at the conference. And Kristen, who helps us with all of our meetings, asked them to bring some dogs over. We had a yappy hour. And so there was, 15 adult dogs and 8 puppies, and the kids loved them. And I went to see how I could, donate personally to Paradise Rescue. So while I'm off at their information table, my wife and daughter started, hanging out with this dog. And I come back and they're both sitting there. And I'm like, who's this? He goes, this is Mark Anthony. And I'm like, well, that's great. I found out how we can donate. She goes, no, I want this dog. So I made her take off her sunglasses. I'm like, really? You want this dog? And so we adopted him, and it's been a treat. He's a great companion, and I'm certainly getting my steps in with Mark Anthony.
Well, I'm sure that Mark Anthony loves it when you're listening to episodes of Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast when you're out walking.
As I take my walks, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I have 2 companions.
I love to hear that. All right. One last kind of business related question. So again, you're going to be leaving the company, but if you were talking to a financial professional that hasn't worked with Penn Mutual in the past, what would your elevator pitch be? Why do you think somebody should be excited about working with our company?
I think the most important thing is you're going to have a relationship that will allow you to have feedback into the company. You're going to have products that are second to none, both in terms of the breadth of those products and the quality of each one. You're going to have the ability to have your clients convert to any one of those on a guaranteed basis. These are things you don't get at many other places, or if there are any other places you get those. So I think if you're a financial professional who values a relationship with the company, who knows your voice will be heard by that company, that advice will frequently, you'll see that advice, translate into actual product changes, service, changes. Then I don't think there's a better company for you as a financial professional to work with than Penn Mutual, because we always listen and we're always focused on our customer, who is the financial professional.
Well said, sir. All right, couple of fun questions.
That was several floors of the elevator, I'm sure, but I figured it was a big building, so I took the time.
Or a very slow elevator. I've been in a number of those over the years.
It could be a slow elevator. Yep.
All right, very good. Couple of fun questions to end up the show here. So our mutual friend, Nicole Schneider, wanted me to ask you this one because she's an avid reader, as are you. And she wanted me to ask you, what are 3 books that you plan on reading in retirement now that you're going to have a little extra free time?
Okay. Well, definitely one is the third in the trilogy. It's called the Wolf Hall trilogy. I've read the first 2, so I'm going to finish that trilogy. I don't know. Nicole's actually given me a recommended list. I'll probably pull a couple off of that list. And I've got a couple of Stephen King books that I used to read Stephen King all the time. And then I stopped for, 30 years. I don't know why. Could have been busy, could have been the job, but got a few Stephen King ones that I've bought, but I have not yet read. So it'll be a mix of those.
My wife loves Stephen King books. She's got a whole collection downstairs. They're thick. Let me put it that way. They're large books in a lot of cases. But
I remember the Stand way back when. That was it was like a coffee table.
Oh yeah,
but a great book.
Yeah, dynamic writer. All right, you're a huge Philly sports fan. For you, what was your greatest moment as far as Philly sports fandom? Was it when the Eagles won the Super Bowl a few years back? Was it when the Phillies won the World Series back in the early 80s? What was kind of the pinnacle of your Philly sports fandom?
Pinnacle, I have to say, was February 4th, 2018. The Eagles beating the Tom Brady-led Patriots. Tom Brady had his best statistical Super Bowl of his history in that game, and we still won. And I remember it was opening night of our Golden Eagle Conference in Vail, Colorado. So it's snowing outside, and I'm supposed to be hosting, and we have these huge TVs set up in this big ballroom, one for Eagles fans to aggregate around, the other for Patriots fans. And I just remember talking to some of our advisors, and I kept on whipping my head around to watch the game. And they were like, "Tom, we'll catch you tomorrow. Go watch your Eagles." And it was just, I was walking on air with the Eagles win. And prior to that had been the 1980 Phillies World Series when they beat the Kansas City Royals. That was incredible. I just remember being with all my friends when that happened. And it was in Jenkintown and people were going nuts. So, but that definitely got topped by the Eagles. And I think it's just a rarity. It was the first Super Bowl and unfortunately the only Super Bowl to this point the Eagles ever won.
Well, there was additional excitement because outside of people in a very specific geographical area up in the Northeast, where they can't pronounce A's and R's correctly. And I say that as half of my family is from the Boston area. The entire country was rooting for the Eagles. I know that I was. So you had a lot of momentum as far as fandom goes at that particular day. And that was very exciting. When the Philly special was pulled off, it was a clue that something special was going to happen that day. And one of the most memorable Super Bowls ever. Yeah.
And they have, that is definitely memorialized down at the link in Philly is the Philly special. So it's, and I've seen other teams now use it. It was remarkable. And I kept on waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong. And then things just kept on going right. And at the very end, they still had a shot. Brady had a shot, the pass to the end zone, the drop. Had they caught it, I think they would have to do a 2-point conversion. But I was like, they're going to catch it. And when it finally hit the ground, it was like, I could finally breathe again. It was, I'm getting tingles now, even just talking about it.
Is it possible for Nick Foles to even buy himself a beer in the city of Philadelphia?
It is not possible. He will never buy a beer, a soda, whatever. I'm sure he gets free Wawa when he goes in.
Well, that's a benefit that all Philadelphians would love to have, is free Wawa. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, Tom, great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast. A personal note, I really enjoyed working with you over this last year plus. Gonna miss working with you on a day-to-day basis, but I know you're still going to be in the industry somewhat, so I'm sure we'll still have some interaction going forward. But congratulations on the retirement. You'll be missed at Penn Mutual, but we're all so happy for you.
Well, Bill, thank you. Thank you for this being my first, I hope it's not my last podcast, but this was a great experience. It's been great getting to know you better in the last year plus. And Penn Mutual is a great company. I hope a lot of people listen to this, and we bring even more people into the fold, because it's a wonderful company and a wonderful place to be. Thank you.
Wow, what an unbelievable interview with Tom. Just a wealth of information. Somebody that I really respect and definitely going to miss working with on a day-to-day basis here at Penn Mutual, but super excited for him as he enters retirement. And I know he's going to do great things in kind of his second phase here of his career. So again, congratulations to Tom. Thanks for sharing so much information with our listeners. One of the things that we've been doing in every episode of Life Matters at Penn Mutual podcast is sharing how many days that we have until the expiration of some of the provisions of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. And as of the date of publication of this episode of Life Matters at Penn Mutual podcast, we are 384 days away, less than 400 days away until the sunset of things like the increased transfer tax exemption and the 199A deduction. So if you haven't talked to your clients about those things, please do so immediately, because 384 days sounds like a lot, but trust me, it is not when you're talking about affluent market life insurance planning. So again, 384 days from the date of publication of this particular podcast. A couple of housekeeping items before we go. First of all, this show is now available on YouTube. So if you want to see what Tom and maybe Mark Anthony look like, log on to our YouTube channel. Just search in YouTube for Penn Mutual. All of the episodes of the show will pop up there. So somewhat interesting to watch a podcast on video. I had never done that until relatively recently, and it actually does add quite a different dimension. So again, just go to YouTube, type in Penn Mutual, subscribe to our channel. That way you'll get all the future episodes as well here. If you have a question for me or Tom or anybody else associated with the program, you can send us an email to lifematters@pennmutual.com. Again, that's lifematters@pennmutual.com. That's a special email box that only I have access to, and I do respond to every email that's sent there. Again, that's lifematters@pennmutual.com. If you haven't subscribed to the show on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you consume your podcast content, please do so today. That way you don't miss any future episodes of the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, smash the like button. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, stop by and leave us a little review. It only takes a few seconds to do either thing, but liking the show on YouTube, adding a rating on Apple Podcasts helps to boost visibility of the show. We'd really appreciate it. In fact, if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, if you stop by and leave a little written review, I'll be your best friend. So for Tom Harris, I'm Bill Bell. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.